American Power and the New Mandarins is a book by Noam Chomsky, largely written in 1968, published in 1969. It was his first political book and sets out in detail his opposition to the Vietnam War. The book is divided into 5 parts. The first part, The Mandarins and the War, examines the role of the American intellectual and technical class, in universities and in government, in formulating and justifying U.S. policy in Vietnam. Chomsky argues that these new Mandarins have abandoned their traditional role as critics of power in favor of becoming apologists for the status quo. He cites as examples the writings of such prominent figures as Walt Rostow, John Kenneth Galbraith, and David Halberstam, who all argued that the United States was justified in intervening in Vietnam to prevent the spread of communism. The second part, The Background of the War, provides a historical overview of U.S. involvement in Vietnam from the early 20th century to the 1960s. Chomsky argues that the United States has been committed to maintaining its domination over Southeast Asia since the end of World War II, and that the Vietnam War was simply the latest chapter in this long history of intervention. The third part, The War and the Economy, examines the economic costs of the Vietnam War. Chomsky argues that the war has had a devastating impact on the U.S. economy, both in terms of its direct costs and its indirect effects on inflation, unemployment, and the balance of payments. He also argues that the war has helped to create a permanent war economy in the United States, which is a threat to democracy and peace. The fourth part, The War and the Future, looks at the implications of the Vietnam War for the future of the United States and the world. Chomsky argues that the war has shown that the United States is no longer the benevolent superpower that it once claimed to be. He also argues that the war has helped to create a climate of fear and hatred that is making it more difficult to solve the world's problems. The fifth part, The Responsibility of Intellectuals, calls on intellectuals to take a more active role in opposing U.S. foreign policy. Chomsky argues that intellectuals have a moral obligation to speak out against injustice and to challenge the prevailing ideology. He also argues that intellectuals have a special responsibility to be honest and to avoid self-deception. American Power and the New Mandarins is a powerful and influential book that has had a major impact on the debate over U.S. foreign policy. It is a must-read for anyone who wants to understand the roots of the Vietnam War and the dangers of American power. Here are some additional thoughts on the book. Chomsky's analysis of the role of the new Mandarins is particularly insightful. He shows how these intellectuals have been co-opted by the power elite and how they have used their expertise to justify policies that are harmful to the vast majority of people. Chomsky's historical overview of U.S. involvement in Vietnam is also very valuable. He shows how the war has been a long-standing goal of the United States, and how it has been used to advance U.S. economic and strategic interests. Chomsky's analysis of the economic costs of the war is also very important. He shows how the war has been a major drain on the U.S. economy, and how it has helped to create a permanent war economy. Chomsky's call on intellectuals to take a more active role in opposing U.S. foreign policy is very timely. In the years since the book was published, the United States has become even more involved in wars and interventions around the world. Intellectuals have a moral obligation to speak out against these wars and to challenge the prevailing ideology. American Power and the New Mandarins is a classic work of political analysis. It is a must-read for anyone who wants to understand the roots of the Vietnam War and the dangers of American power.